Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CG Cookie live stream, Blender Tuesday. It's good to see you all again. This is the first Blender stream since the class ended last week, and that was a blast. Thank you for those of you who have given feedback. I really do appreciate it. Very helpful to hear how you guys thought the class went and improvements, possible improvements, stuff like that. So thank you. It's good to see you again. With the month of August, we are doing this theme about add-ons and like exploring. I call them showcase, and I'm starting to favor the word exploration, Blender add-on exploration, because we want this to be like an objective look at tools. We're not trying to sell you on anything. We're not, it's not endorsed by, like the add-on creator or anything. We're just trying to take a good objective look at tools, how they can improve workflows or certain tasks within Blender. So that's what we're going to be looking at this month. And let's see, was there anything else I wanted to say before we get started? Always blank in the chat when we talk about random stuff. I always enjoy those conversations, but inevitably when I go live, it's like, oh yeah, what am I doing here? What is this all for? Did I say July? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm very sorry. It's the month of July that we're going to be looking at add-ons. I'm sorry. I get my times messed up. But welcome. So today we're going to be talking about the Sculpt Toolkit. It's an add-on at the Blender Market that you can get. It's $15. And the reason we're going to be looking at it is twofold. Number one is I'm a big fan of sculpting. If you've been around CG Cookie much at all, or if you follow me on Twitter or anything, if you're familiar with my work, I do a lot of sculpting. It's my preferred method for creating in 3D, especially models and organic models, even hard surface. I like to try and dabble in that realm. And I just love sculpting. It's so much more intuitive. It's easier to pick up. It's less geometric and limiting, but you've all heard this from me before, so it's nothing new. I love sculpting, and I know that a lot of people do. And so when you spend a lot of time sculpting in Blender, even though it's a very competent program, Omar, you're asking, didn't the live stream start August last year? Oh yeah, you're right. So it's, I think, wasn't it maybe it was August. I think we launched the website 6.0 at the end of July, which would mean that's when we committed to doing live streams, to testing if these were interesting to people, interesting to our members. And so we must have started in in August, very beginning of August. Good grief, these months. But yeah, so we're coming up on our year anniversary of live streams. That's pretty cool. But so when you're spending a lot of time sculpting, even though Blender is a very competent program, a lot of features that work very well right out of the box, the more time you spend sculpting, there are efficiencies that can be had, and there's several people who have written tools to make the sculpting experience a little more fully featured or a little more streamlined, and Sculpt Toolkit is one of those, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. And then the second reason is I featured a similar add-on called Sculpt Tools UI, I believe, and I use that in one of our courses, and I'm going to get to that, but basically, that one's outdated. It's not developed anymore. And so Sculpt Toolkit, I see as a replacement. I've been looking for a good replacement, and this is one of them. And so, those are the reasons why I wanted to specifically focus on Sculpt Toolkit. And it is on the Blender Market, he refers to himself as Flow Tools, but his real name, according to the add-on installation, is Jean de Costa Machado. I think I'm getting fairly close. What the Sculpt Toolkit is, it's efficiency tools for streamlining a Blender sculptor's workflow. So if you're into sculpting, if you use Blender, it's definitely something to consider. And so there are several tools that have been aimed at this type of functionality for a while, ever since really my first memory of them is when I'm blanking. Dynamic topology, when that came along. It revolutionized the way you could sculpt in Blender, but also Blender was one of the first to feature a kind of unlimited self-generating model format for sculpting. And so it changed a lot about the sculpting game. And so when that came out, we started to see tools come out. And so aside from Sculpt Toolkit, there is Flow Tools, which is actually the precursor to Sculpt Toolkit. And it is developed by the same person. I believe it was the beta of Sculpt Toolkit. So this was like what he used to get user feedback to develop the add-on into something, into its final product, which is Sculpt Toolkit. So this is free, and if we look it up, let's see, it's still available. Flow Tools to Blender. So yeah, there was a Blender Nation article about it, and I do remember seeing this, but I don't think I looked into it at the time. But yeah, so you can download this add-on, and it's very similar. It's not as many features as Sculpt Toolkit, but if you want to test it and see, kind of get a taste of what the add-on's like before you commit to purchasing it, this is a good option. But you can see like the development has stopped, like 4 months ago, maybe a little thing 3 months ago. But on the Blender market, it was released 3 months ago. So it's safe to say that this is going to be the final product that will continue to get development. So there's Flow Tools, and then there is Speed Sculpt, which is another really good add-on. It was kind of between Sculpt Toolkit and Speed Sculpt for me. And Speed Sculpt is on Gumroad for $11.75. If we go, let's see, I think this is here. Yeah. So I recognize this username Pituwazu. He or she does really good sculpts, and I follow them on Twitter. So it was kind of cool to see them come up with a very fully featured add-on. It's actually got I would say, significantly more tools than Sculpt Toolkit. And in that way, my final decision was kind of Sculpt Toolkit was a little more simple and directly related, in my opinion, more to the Sculpt Tools UI, which I promoted to people, members like you who watch our stuff on CG Cookie and that course that I specifically taught. So that's why I am looking at Sculpt Toolkit. But if there's interest, maybe I could do a second one. I don't actually have a live stream scheduled for next week. I just got to figure it out. I haven't decided on an add-on, but maybe I'll do this one and do sort of a comparison. If you want to see more sculpt efficiency tools. On that note, if you have any recommendations, we are going to do later in the month. We're going to do decal machine, mesh machine, hard ops, like those big ones. But if you got any other suggestions, I'm open, and I could do it next week. But anyway, maybe if I remember at the end of this stream, I'll ask for a vote if you want me to look at Speed Sculpt or if you want me to do a different add-on. So yeah, there's Speed Sculpt, another great option, similar price, but absolutely worth supporting these devs. I mean, yeah, you should do it. It's a very good thing. So, and then there's Sculpt Tools UI, which you all are probably familiar with if you've been around CG Cookie and seen a few of my sculpting courses, but it's kind of infamous at this point. If we go look at the course, so this is modeling a Sci-Fi Helmet, and I use the add-on extensively, and we've got so many questions about. I think I found out a problem with the grease cut. It doesn't appear that the subtract mode works. The Sculpt add-on no longer in Blender. Grease cut not working. There's been a bunch of confusion because the add-on has not been developed. And you can find that add-on, by the way, if you... let's see, that's Flow Tools. Let me look it up. Yeah, so it's still available on GitHub, and you can install it if you want. But the problem is it's not been developed for... let's see, 5 years ago. It looks like maybe 3 years something was touched. So it's not been developed for a long time. And with each new Blender version, it just gets further and further obsolete. So it's kind of time to maybe let that one go. But it was great in its time, and it opened my eyes to how useful some of these key tools are for a sculptor's workflow. Also, typical announcement, like please... if you have a question, feel free to ask. This is the best time to ask questions and get them answered. But add a prefix question in all caps just to ensure that I see them a little more obviously, and I don't want to miss your questions. But just checking it out. What about Pro Lighting Studio? Yeah, Andrew Price's add-on about lighting. That would be a pretty good one. Yeah, thank you for suggesting that one. If anyone else has any suggestions for add-ons, let me know. question, do you use Sculpt Toolkit or something like that for your personal work? I do use Sculpt Toolkit. I bought it, and I've not used it for any training yet, but I've used it for my personal workflow. And you know, it is, since I committed to the Sculpt Tools UI, like that's kind of a mixed bag, to where like I liked expanding into showing and teaching like there are tools out there that can significantly improve your workflow. But the catch to that is you kind of depend on the add-on being updated by the developer, or your training kind of becomes obsolete. So I don't know. I will probably teach Sculpt Toolkit, but since it costs money, I'm also I'm conflicted about that. So, but I do use it for my personal work. It is a very good tool set, and I'll explore it today and show you, some of how I use it. But yeah, okay. So some of the key factors and features in these add-ons that deal with sculpting and improving sculpting workflow is Boolean tools, which Sculpt Toolkit has all of these, but we'll just briefly touch on them. So Boolean tools are great for like the kit bashing process, which should be a familiar workflow if you've heard that workflow from the course. Like kit bashing the Sci-Fi Helmet, being able to like take a bunch of shapes and crash them into each other and subtract and add and intersect and all those Boolean functionalities. It can make for a liberating creative experience, and so that is really important for a sculptor's advanced tool set, and we've got them here. In addition, we've got this thing called slash cutting, which is basically like grease cut. It's the ability to take your grease pencil marks and use them to subtract from your mesh. So you can very intuitively draw lines, cut them away from your sculpt object, and very, very useful. I would say that this is actually maybe a little more fully featured than Sculpt Tools UI. We've got draw slash. Well, we'll go into those. You've got several different modes. So it's kind of like baseline. You need to have Boolean tools to have a Sculpt add-on. And then we've also got mask tools, which is pretty great. This is the only add-on that I have personally seen be able to like mask and have like and you can like not extract, but you can specifically decimate within that masked area. Now there's the Speed Sculpt does it, I think, as like the only thing I've seen Speed Sculpt do is that it's like a very harsh mask, whereas this one can actually do the interpolation, like the blend out, and it will subdivide, it will decimate accordingly. So that's pretty cool. But maybe that's a small thing, and maybe that's not fully true of the other add-on. I haven't actually bought it and used it yet. Just watched the hour-long video on it. And so anyway, the mask tools, really, really nice additional feature than what Sculpt Tools UI had. But these are great. And then this one is, as far as I know, the only add-on that does this envelope building, where you take your envelope rig, how you can change to B-bone or to octahedral or envelope bones. The developer has been able to take those bones, that skeleton, and convert it to a mesh, and it's wild. It's kind of like the skin modifier on steroids a little bit. It's just you can be, in my opinion, you can be more customizable with the envelope builder. So this is an awesome feature that's unique as far as I can tell. So we're going to take a look at that. And those are the three big ones. There are other features that we're going to look at, but these are the big ones in the add-on. And so with that said, we're about ready to jump into, Ice Tools is very good too, actually. I own Ice Tools as well. I preferred Ice Tools. The reason I bought it is I preferred it over Hardops. I actually bought Hardops too, but Ice Tools I thought was a little more intuitive and not kind of, I don't know. Hardops to me, when I've used it, has been a steeper learning curve. Ice Tools was a little less so, but we're gonna let Lampel do Hardops and show us that. I'm kind of hoping that he is gonna be able to like crack that nut even for me. So let's see here. From Cody, do any of the tools allow you to symmetrize a portion of a mesh and not the rest? No, that is one thing that is missing, and along the process, I do have some things that I don't love about the add-on, and maybe if the developer watches this, it could be kind of like a feature request in a way. But there are no symmetry tools yet with this add-on. I would love for there to be. I know Speed Sculpt does have some symmetry tools, so that is nice to have for sure. But yeah, I'm with you. It would be nice to be able to like mask off the face and symmetrize it, but not symmetrize anything else. That would be awesome. But to my knowledge, I don't know. SpeedSculpt has a very rudimentary version of envelope bones. That said, if I'd compare the two early on, I would have gone with Sculpt Toolkit. Now, yeah, SpeedSculpt has, again, like a ton of tools that when I watched the video, I was like, this is amazing, but it's almost too much. Like I would have to commit more to learning that one. But that's not a negative thing. I just got to kind of have my foot in. I don't want to get my workflow ever too dependent on a different tool that's not stock in Blender. That's kind of just the teacher's curse is what I feel like. But yeah, definitely check out Speed Sculpt. It looks really, really good. Anybody heard of Zero Brush from Blender Sensei? I've heard of it. Let's look it up. What is Zero Brush? Paint and sculpt instantly. Huh, in my searching, I didn't run across this one. I think I've heard of it, but not used it myself, not even really seen much about it. Oh, but all of Blender is changed. Interesting. Oh, email reminder should be sent like 30 minutes before the stream. I frankly forgot about that feature. What is the length of time it sends the email? Oh, it only sends the email right away, doesn't it? I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that's something we should change to. We're actually in the middle of an EDU sprint, so I'm going to make a note of that, to change it, because that does stink. I guess people are showing up late. Cool. All right, so with that said, let's jump into Blender. Let's give this thing a test drive, so to speak. So, all right, so installing the add-on, you guys should probably all know how to do this by now, but just for the sake of it, let's see. I'm going to remove. I have it installed, but I'm going to remove it. I'm going to remove also Sculpt Tools UI while I'm at it. And so I download the file. Once you get a .zip, you can install that .zip. And we'll go to my downloads, sort by date. It's one of my newer ones. Blender Sculpt Tools Mass. No, that's not it. Sculpt Toolkit, this one. All right, so that's pretty simple. Most people know how to install add-ons, but there you go. So we've got it installed, and I'm going to save the user settings so it stays enabled once I restart Blender. And here it appears down here in the toolbar. And like I said, there are other features that I have not gone over. I did not tease at the beginning. And at the top, we have drawing options. And so these are like repeat tools that we have elsewhere. But since they're here, I think the intention of the developer is that we can maximize our viewport, hide our in-panel view properties, and just be able to sculpt with very little UI real estate taken up. I believe that would be the intention. And so you can turn off the grid floor if you want. You can change your lens on your camera, which typically I like to change that to 60. You can toggle the wire, which is nice. And random colors. Now, this is nice, but it does bring me into the fact that the 2.8 release is imminent. It's coming in the next few months. As far as we can tell, it seems very certain that that's going to happen. And we have a random color feature that will make this obsolete in a way. So we're in this awkward time to where I'm showing you how to use this add-on, but pretty much all add-ons will need to be updated for 2.8. And so hoping that, since this is a commercial add-on, there is more incentive to update the add-on. And so hopefully that will happen. But we'll, I guess I should say that with 2.8 coming, be aware that the add-on won't be immediately ready unless the developer does that. So yeah, we've got some nice drawing options that allows us to hide other portions of the UI. So that's a very convenient set of tools. With that too, at the bottom we have solid lights, and this is a direct duplication of, in your system preferences, you have access to these OpenGL lights, and this has a nice set of pre-made, what do you call them, presets. So you can, well, this isn't really a good model. Let's add a mesh monkey. So like, what's nice about this is it's kind of like a primitive, not primitive, but it's almost like a matte cap system. So like with these presets, we can look at the different styles, you know, and they have names: red clay, brown clay, and stuff like that. And you can create your own. So that's really nice. And I'm wondering how this will work with 2.8.2, because one of my annoyances so far with 2.8 is that I don't have access to this stuff anymore, it seems. Or at least it doesn't. I do have access to it, but it doesn't affect properly. There's like a light source within 2.8 that always casts shadows and changes the shading, but I can't find like how to control that mystery light source. So that being said, like I don't know, I'm not sure how this will work at 2.8, but for 2.7 it's nice to have this. I like this in addition to the matte caps. So you can change to the Blender default or your current default, whatever you have set up, which for me is this headlights thing. So anyway, that's another display feature. I don't keep it open too often, but with that said, we can look at Boolean tools specifically. I am loving the 2.8 viewport for sculpting. Big improvement over 2.79. I haven't done a ton of sculpting with 2.8 yet, but that's good to hear. That's really good to hear. I know I'm even though my first experience, if you guys follow me on Twitter, my first like few hours of seriously trying to work with 2.8 was a little more jarring than I expected. I am still very hyped for it and intend on having a great attitude, a professional attitude of like, let's get on the bandwagon, you know, let's put the faith in the developers in whichever direction they go. So yeah, I'm still very hyped and glad to hear of improvements like that. Anything else? Question: from 1 to 10, if 1 is total programming noob and 10 is a zero cool hacker, where do you think you have to be to develop an add-on for Blender? Interesting question. So I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle in that I have created a tool set that when I worked at the studio before I joined CG Cookie, I found myself doing the same stuff a lot of times, like just pipeline things. And so like I decided to like start learning some programming. I wanted to see if I could make an add-on, and I made a pretty extensive one that had a lot of custom tools that did exactly what I needed, a lot of macros, but then a lot of, I mean, in a way, I guess most of it was macros. And so I developed that myself, and I'm not a programmer. The most programming I've ever done besides that was like coding my personal website from HTML and CSS, which, you know, a lot of 14-year-old kids do. So that being said, you don't have to be like a mastermind, I don't think, to create stuff like this. Where I get confused is like how, you know, initially how this like draw slash option, if we click that, draw slash, how this like converts the grease pencil into, oh, look at that. I think that's literally the first time I've ever seen it not work. Maybe it's because this is separate geometry. Anyway, like how they managed to turn the grease cut into like a Boolean object, I don't really know, but somehow they do it, and it's very achievable, I guess, is what I'm trying to circle back around to. If I can do it, if I can like do a significant add-on, then you could too. So if you're interested in learning, definitely explore it, because even if you don't make add-ons, you can do simple macros that will save you a lot of time. And the way I look at it is kind of, once you learn to program, the computer is your tool. You're not just using the, how do I say this kindly? Basically, I thought I was at the mercy of the computer before I learned how to program. And now that I know how to program a little bit, the computer's more at my mercy, in a way. Does that make sense? Like a shift of power kind of thing. Anyway, definitely explore it if you're interested. All right, so let me get back on track. question, what are macros? So macros are like, okay, a good example of a macro is the Boolean tools. So if I add, let's get rid of the Suzanne head. Let's add a cube and then add a sphere. All right, so a Boolean, these Boolean tools are examples of a macro, to where if I click the subtract button here, it's at a click of a button, it takes the negative space of one object and subtracts that from the other object. But if I were to do this with standard Blender, with stock Blender, I would have to click this object, add a modifier, Boolean, and then select within that modifier this other sphere. All right, and so it does an operation, but it's not the correct operation. Then I have to switch to difference. All right, and then maybe hide this object, and now we have that result. So all of those clicks can be automated into a single button, and that is a macro. And these Booleans are perfect examples of that. And so it's very, very intuitive and intuitive and user-friendly, efficient to be able to Boolean stuff together like this, right? Do an intersection, you know, all these tools. I mean, Booleans are not new, so none of this should be new to you. But yeah, do kind of like the Venn diagram space is how I think of it. And yeah, so Booleans, they're pretty standard. They work really well. You can, what I do like about this one that Sculpt Tools UI did not do is, or I don't think it did, is you can choose the solver right here from the menu. So I can, B-Mesh is kind of the standard, but Carve, in my experience, is a little more robust, but maybe can take a little bit longer. And so being able to switch that there is really nice, in my opinion. I like that option. Now, as far as, so the grease cut, well, no, it's not called grease cut. The slash cutting is, yeah, that would be kind of cool. Killzone, it would be cool if Blender had an option like Photoshop to record macros. That's very true. That would be someone here, maybe Omar, since you were asking, you should create an add-on that can record your macros if there isn't already something like that. So yeah, standard Booleans. Now the carve, the slash cutting. So this is like grease cut if you use Sculpt Tools UI. And similar to the default version of Sculpt Tools UI is that it simply separates the cut piece away. And so if you were to, like in the Sci-Fi Helmet course, what I did a lot was like cut from here and then cut again over here, you know, make a bunch of cuts quickly. And something that is kind of annoying, I thought it was annoying with Sculpt Tools UI, and I think the same thing here, is that we don't have an option to automatically remove what you cut away. So like, I wish that I could just hit draw slash cut, and then this piece is gone. Like the smaller piece is gone. I know some add-ons do it by like the direction of the cut. So if I make a cut like this, like it knows the direction and automatically chooses one side of that direction, the specific side of that direction. But anyway, if the developer ever watches this, that'd be a nice addition. So within that, though, that was kind of the typical draw slash using the grease pencil. But you can also do a line slash, which I like for being just straight lines. That's nice. You can also, and then another thing, like when I make a cut, another improvement is when we make a cut, let's see, when we make a line cut, I have to go back and select that object. Like that action can just be, could be a little bit sped up if we did the subtract. That would be nice. Let's see what else. So the polygon slash tool, these are just different types of drawing where you can click and make, you know, a jagged shape if you desired. So that's nice. And then the mesh cutter, let me see. Cut the mesh by drawing strokes. That's not what it's for. Let's see. Let's look. Let me see. I'm not sure what the difference between that and a Boolean is, but let me look at the documentation. I know I've looked this up, but I've forgotten. The mesh cutter cuts the selected mesh using the active object as a knife. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. So let's start over with a new object, UV sphere, and then we'll use a cube. All right, so what this will do using the active object mesh cutter is it's a Boolean, but it like maintains the intersected point. So it's not really, it's like a combination of subtract and intersect in a way. So like that can certainly be useful. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Let's see. The Helmet series, it was able to remove the cut by enabling the feature, but it doesn't work anymore. Yeah, so I actually added that feature myself because when I was using it, I thought it was easy enough to just add the lines of code in. I haven't done that for this add-on, but yeah, that was nice. And it stopped working because, you know, it seemed like a simple fix, but then I didn't think I was like committing to like maintaining the add-on, but it just became a mess. But yeah, I would love to have that feature added. Question, do you press enter to finalize the cut? Great question, and yes, you do. And that is a bit of another, it's quirky. So if I choose draw slash, I do have to hit enter. And it would be nice if we didn't have to. But also, you can hit escape, and that will make your cut, or it should. Yeah, so I hit escape, or if you do anything else, it seems, let's draw a line cut here, and like click anywhere else on the UI, it'll make your cut. So with that being known, you know, it's kind of odd. It's just, I mean, we can maybe eliminate that stage because I'm trying to think, like, would you ever draw multiple? No, you can't draw multiple. So like, I don't really know why it is that way, but that's a little bit cumbersome. Another small note that I would pass to the developer. But yeah, I've never really seen an add-on that needs confirmation, but it gets that confirmation whether you hit enter, whether you hit escape, whether you click somewhere else in the UI. Okay, escape doesn't work. I thought it did, but escape apparently does not. It doesn't cancel the tool either. But like if I click on solid lights, it'll I have to have that selected. If I click on the solid lights menu, it'll make the cut. So that's a little bit, I've never seen an add-on do that. Mildly annoying at this point, but okay, so that's Boolean tools. Overall, a very thorough set of tools using the grease pencil and using just Booleans. So I like how this is organized. I like the functionality there. Let's move on to the mask tools, which actually first, let's look at the remesh because this is a perfect candidate. Something that's been Booleaned is a perfect candidate to be remeshed. And if we add, let's see, what are we looking in here? Remesh, just a regular decimate. So this is nice. You don't have to set it up yourself, but you can, in one click, let's go 0.1 and then decimate. I like that macro type approach to the decimation. We can also do a simple remesh, which uses this octtree depth of 4. So if we undo and choose 6, not decimate, simple remesh. So that will, you know, increase the higher the octtree depth, obviously the more geometry being used. But now we have a very even topology that we can continue sculpting, and that would make total sense to remesh these objects. If you learned, Omar, if you learned to code, at least you get to dress like Neo while coding. Not a bad idea. You certainly get to feel like Neo, and that's actually great. I'm not even exaggerating. Like when he sees the green and the green code, and he's like, I can do whatever I want in here. That's absolutely what it feels like. That is funny you bring that up. Question, if you have experience with Bool tools, would you use that over the other? I have used Bool tools. I've used a lot of add-ons, and sometimes they blend together. But Bool tools, I suppose I feel like I only use Booleans in like a sculpting kit bash context. Now, I know that the hard surface approach made popular by like hard ops is that it uses Booleans intended for rendering, whereas I tend to look at Booleans as like roughing in geometry. So I know that people do use Booleans outside of sculpting plenty, especially in this kind of new era of hard surface modeling like hard ops. But since I use it more in sculpting, I like that it's packaged inside of a Sculpt add-on. So I prefer that personally, but I have used Bool tools and it's good. Like it's not bad at all. It's not bad. It's actually a very good tool. And I think, isn't Bool tool like incorporated into hard ops? I think hard ops sources other add-ons and like to make the full package, but That's a good endorsement there. Question, if you, oh, you already asked that. All right, I already answered that. All right, cool. So yeah, we're talking about remeshing. You can do the simple remesh, or you can do an advanced remesh, which I don't really. It's got some interest. It's got a lot of settings in here that I don't really know how they work. Change the iterations. Let's just do a quick test. Let's do the iterations down to 1. Let's undo first and see what advanced remeshing does. Let's do iterations down to 1. Let's see. I wonder if, how do I tell if there's any difference? Anyway, I think I remember the previous version of this add-on. He updated it recently, but it was only advanced remesh. So every time you clicked on remesh, you had to go over these settings. And I just remember thinking, like, I don't know what these settings do. Like, how is a multi-resolution being used in here? I don't know, but I can't really see any difference. So that said, I tend to just use the simple remesh, you know, make an octree depth, just go with it. Simple enough. But if, you know, there is an advanced option. All right, so those are your remesh tools. Now, remeshing makes a lot of sense when you first Boolean objects. But then there's also, so once you have a good geometry, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to remesh the object so that I could show you in sculpt mode. I could have more geometry for masking. Okay, so we've got this mask option. Let's turn off symmetry. So like, you know, you can mask your object. Pretty typical. This is in Sculpt Tools UI, and you can extract that mask. Ooh. But what's cool is as soon as you extract the mask, when you move your cursor up and down, your mouse up and down, that establishes the thickness. And it's very interactive, and it's pretty cool. And then you click and do it again, and that increases the smoothness, which I love that. I love that interactivity. It's really, really nice. Let's do that again, but I got to jump back into sculpt mode. To have a little bit more streamlined in the mode switching, that would be nice. Though it maybe makes sense when I extract a mesh, I want to go to object mode into that new mesh. But like, it would also be cool if it just goes straight to sculpt mode in that new mesh. But anyway, we'll do that again. So we'll make another mask. Whoops, I don't want to play an animation. Alt-M. And then, so on the side here, you know, like we can mask off an area. All right, and then extract the mask, move down for the thickness, move up again to smooth it out. You've got this, you know, really nice, I mean, this isn't a great example, but like, I see a lot of potential for needing to use this in sculpting, like eyebrows on a character, or, you know, like leather accents on a character's like clothing. You know, this has a lot of use, and I love the interactivity of clicking, dragging twice. That I just want to do it one more time because I think it's awesome. Mask, extract the mask, get your thickness, and then get your smoothness. Love that. The only negative about it, in my opinion, is that it's always on top of the mesh. Sometimes there is a good use for making the solidify modifier be inside the mesh as well. So that's the only caveat, in my opinion. If this could improve, it would be the option to move in or out of the object, not just a standard default. Let's see. So yeah, that's the extract option. What else do we got? Always have to be in sculpt mode and with a mask, or need to be in sculpt mode for these buttons to light up. So the mask split, this is kind of nice. Sculpt Tools UI did not have this as far as I remember. So we can split it, and it essentially, that's interesting. So it kind of acts like a Boolean. It takes the surface and cuts like a plane, as much of a plane through it as it can be, and then you can just pull it away. So that's interesting. Like if I let's see where that could be. used a little differently. So I can see this being useful for like a character. If you wanted to like cut off the forearm, you can mask that area off and then just rip it away. So mask split. Yeah, that's pretty cool actually. This isn't a great example, but let's see. I'll blow your mind real quick and then I'll tease you. So we're just gonna do this real quick. So like if I had a character like this, we're gonna go over this. This part is awesome. And I wanted to lop off the hand to be sculpted separately. I mean, you know, it actually would be probably faster just to use the draw slash. So that would possibly be quicker. But, and it didn't work. I promise you, in all of my testing, I had no issues. I never saw draw slash not work. And then it's failed a few times. Why is it failing? Interesting. The problem is that I will never be able to remember all the options. You will if you find yourself sculpting a lot, right? I think, wow, I almost froze Blender. What is going on? For some reason, that's not working. Well, I was supposed to be showing you the mask tools anyway. So let's try the masking way. Yeah, the whole point of this was to say that you could mask off an area like this, mask split. Okay, and then that would be a clean way to cut off the hand. So for some reason, the slash cutting was not working. Interesting. My Blender does seem a little slow with OBS going on, so that's kind of typical. My computer's getting a little old. Question, why doesn't Blender just incorporate all those functions by default instead of being separate and enabled as an add-on? Well, I think partly because the beauty of Blender is that the community contributes their own add-ons they expand Blender using their own programming. And then that takes some of the weight off of the Blender Institute or the Blender Animation Studio official Blender devs to do this kind of functionality, because if they were required to, like, the resources aren't there. So the beauty is the community gets to develop this stuff. And if the add-on has a good enough reputation and it's good enough, often they get incorporated into Trunk, just like the Node Wrangler add-on, right? So this started from the Node Wrangler. Who did this one? Greg Zoll, Bartek Skoropa, Sebastian Koenig, Christian Brinkman. These people made it separate from Blender, separate from the Blender devs, but it has since been incorporated directly into the Blender. So the Blender into Blender's Trunk add-ons. And so if Sculpt Tools or any of these, stand out and get that kind of reputation, and the developer is willing to incorporate it, this could one day be incorporated directly into Blender. That was a long way of answering that question. But also, like this, the developer needs, this is part of a way he's making income is by selling the add-on. And so I don't know how that works. Will he give that income up in order to serve the community? I don't know. That's up to them. But so a lot of tools in Blender have come from add-ons, as far as I know, and then eventually incorporated directly into Blender. You're in object mode, need to be in edit mode? Oh, you're asking about not grease cut, the draw slash. I don't think so. It should work fine. Yeah, it should work completely fine in object mode. Strange. I wonder if I go to sculpt mode. That is so bizarre. Enabling all add-ons can also be heavy. I'm curious what you mean. Like, if I have a bunch of add-ons loaded, I think this is the only add-on I have loaded is Sculpt Toolkit, but I don't know why that's not working. I'm curious now. I want to be able to fix it. Wonder if this closed ends is something. Or is it carve? We have options here, so we can test. Maybe if I switch it from carve to be... Oh, well, that one worked. It just took a long time. Maybe there's a... Maybe the mesh is pretty dense. I don't know. That doesn't seem like it should be unusable. What if we go to B mesh, turn on closed ends? Huh. That is slow. And or not working. Try another mesh. Yeah, I should. Yeah, I'm struck because I mean, in my testing, I've not seen this happen at all. Strange. Is there an add-on you just can't live without? Honestly, it's a sculpting add-on. It was Sculpt Tools UI in my personal workflow, and I even carry that over into my training. But yeah, since I sculpt so much, that just busted. All right, let's get rid of that. So the add-ons that I do end up unable to live without are the sculpting add-on, and Sculpt Toolkit is becoming that for me. But also Node Wrangler, that one is an essential one for working in the Node editor. And outside of those two, okay, like loop tools, that's one that I use as well. Let's go back to like a UV sphere. Make sure that this still works. Yeah, like lightning fast. I don't know what it is about that mesh. It's maybe too dense, but it's also, I don't know, questionable why it's not working. But so within, if we go to edit mode, loop tools is something that I always have enabled. I use some of those tools very frequently. And then also in my personal workflow, I do have my own add-on that I mentioned earlier that I wrote. It's got a lot of tools that I just find myself using a lot. So those are the four add-ons that I use all the time. But I really do try not to be too dependent on add-ons for instructors' sake. I feel bad when someone is like, hey, where'd you get that tool? And I don't know how to explain them how to do it in like normal Blender. So I try not to be too dependent on it. Did you test during recording? I did not. Maybe I need to start doing that. Because in one of the class streams, I like it was much slower when I was actually streaming. So that is maybe a problem. I need to test. I need a new computer, guys. That's the real point that I want to land at. I need a new computer. That will make all things better. Question, is there an add-on you can't live without? All right, so we kind of got sidetracked. I was talking about, the fact that these weren't working, it was pretty odd. But we were talking about our mask options. And, oh yeah, mask deform, that's a cool one. Let's go back to adding another envelope human. Convert to mesh. Let's just use resolution 50. Okay, so what is kind of cool about this mask deform option is it reminds me of ZBrush. I think it is meant to be like a imitation of the way ZBrush works. So if I want to pose this arm, so to speak, and I want to, let's see, I forgot how to lasso mask, shift control left mouse. All right, so we want to mask off this arm. If I invert it so only the arm is unmasked, and then I add a mask deform, I get this little widget, which is pretty cool. If I move it where I want the pivot to be, so this circular one is like moving the origin, and then this manipulator is the rotation, and you can see that we rotate based on the mask. All right, so I'm getting a really steep fall off, really harsh fall off. So let's try it again. I think, well, I just deleted them, but you can, let me undo that. Let's just click the object and remove mask deform. Let's try that again. Sculpt mode, and let's see, I want to blur out this, this mask. And so I'm trying to go to the mask tool, the mask brush, and then gradually subtract some of this. Basically just increase or decreasing the harshness in the weights. is essentially what this will do. And then let's try it again. I'm not efficient with this, but like I can imagine if you use this a lot, you could actually be very efficient with like posing your model in like in a rig type way, right? And so then we could, I like that pose, remove the mask deform, go back to sculpt mode, maybe select here. Anyway, yeah, so I'm not efficient, but like if you use this a lot, I bet you could pose a character pretty quickly. But I like this. I like the idea. I like imitating the pose sort of mode from ZBrush. But anyway, so that's a cool feature. And then mask decimate, I love mask decimate, because if you, so often I run into, I've used dynamic topology, I've sculpted a lot of detail in the face, but I need to decimate the rest of it, right? I want to decrease the rest of the geometry for any number of reasons. It's a common thing. And then here we have the option to go to sculpt mode, Alt M to clear the mask. And let's say, for example, this face had a lot of detail. You'll just have to trust me on that besides looking at the wireframe. So if we look at the wireframe, let's use that toggle wire option. All right, so I want to maintain this level of geometry, but simplify everything else. So let's mask decimate to 0.1. And just like that, it actually expands a little bit beyond the, I always thought that it interpolated, but maybe it doesn't. Let's see, if I use, go back to sculpt mode. So I might need to get in the habit of like using a smaller area, right? So like smaller area, mask decimate. Yeah, okay, so it does seem to do the extreme border is like the cutoff. So maybe it doesn't interpolate like I thought. Maybe it is like a black and white 0 to 1 value. But anyway, in that case, it would be on par with speed sculpt or vice versa. But in this case, it's so nice to be able to maintain detail here, but then get the decimation everywhere else. That is a tool that I've wanted for a while. Any other questions that I'm missing? Question, is there an add-on that doesn't exist that you would do yourself if you were Neo? Yes, for sure. There is, man, that's a rabbit trail. There's a lot of ideas that I've had for improving workflow. But often, if I'm honest, like it's kind of like one or two tools here and there. When I think of add-on, I feel like it needs to be a bunch of tools to be like warrant the add-on thing. But I frequently like make macros and stuff. But if there was one add-on, I would love to see ZBrush's Q remesher or Z remesher. I forget which it is. But the ability to like draw guide curves and like create an auto topology, I would love that to be in Blender. I keep trying to push Jonathan Williamson to do that with ReTopoFlow, like add that feature one day. But I would never use that for like real characters. I just don't know that the technology will ever be good enough to like make a perfect character topology the way that doing it hand by hand would do, by doing a by hand retopology. But I would love for that feature because there's background characters, there's walls, or like organic cliff sides that would really benefit from that kind of feature. So I would love to see that personally. Yeah, Mudbox has that. I know that I want to say 3D Coat has an auto retopology. Yeah, it definitely does. It was one of the first to have an auto retopology function. So yeah, like other software is getting it. I really want to see it for Blender, and hopefully the Jonathan Williamson and Jonathan Denning will do that with ReTopoFlow, but we'll see. Man, that question has me thinking now. I think there's probably several that I have thought of that I would love, several add-ons that I would love to see built one day, but off the top of my head, I'm blanking besides the auto retopology. Mine would be like getting Photoshop functionality in the UV image editor. Okay, in the UV image editor, I supported the B Surfaces add-on for several months because of that. Like what it did for texture painting, I was so into that. I don't know if it's still actively being developed. It seems the Patreon has been kind of dead, but yeah, it would be kind of cool. It seems like you could just port that over to the 2D UV image editor. You know, a more robust layer system directly connected to the 3D view. That would be awesome. All right, so, okay, I showed you mask decimate. Very simple, but very, very useful. We've gone over remesh. I guess the last big one is the envelope builder. I have no idea how this guy did it, but he uses, you know, this is your envelope rig system, so you can pose it, and he's got some presets, all humanoid, which is great if you wanted to pose a character, but also, I'm going too fast. So this is great because, especially with characters, it would be nice to, you know, put your character in a pose initially, and then once you get something, you know, like, and posing it this way is very intuitive. And you have control how to rig it the way you want. If you want to, I think I saw that this was not parented anywhere. So like connected parenting those allows us to, should allow us, no, it doesn't. I assumed it would follow this, but it did not. I don't know why. Anyway, posing the character this way is very intuitive if you ever use an armature. So this is nice. And how he managed to convert this to a mesh is beyond me. Oh, you'll see that it popped back to the rest position. Let's undo that. And instead, let's go into pose mode. And there's a way to clear transform. I'm trying to figure out how to make this the new rest pose. Apply pose as rest pose. There we go. So now it will, there we go, apply that way. B shears, B spheres. Instant meshes is kind of cool. Oh, that add-on, yeah. Did you try to invite the add-on developer to the live stream? You know, Wes mentioned that. I think he likes the idea, and I want it to be objective, right? So I feel kind of bad if I have a bunch of notes and then I'm like, hey, come on in and talk to me. I just critiqued your add-on objectively. Maybe that can be done fine, but also based on the name, he's probably international, and it's kind of a hassle to like schedule a test stream, try and find a good time slot that works for them and me, because 2 p.m. at this time that we stream is only really good for me. So yeah, I like the idea, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through. So I ultimately decided not to, but we might do that for the other add-ons. If you guys like it, we might try for it. But you know, it could change the time and all of a sudden be not good for you, or you know, I one of my biggest fears is like not being able to understand each other because of a, you know, like breakdown in language, you know. I have this story of when I went to SIGGRAPH, I was so excited to meet Tan, but I was terrified that I wouldn't understand him because, you know, he's like half deaf, I think, and he speaks a certain way. And I was like, I would just be so ashamed of myself if I couldn't understand this guy that I like idolize, you know? So anyway, it scares me to think if I have a guest on and we don't quite understand each other, or if I do a test stream and I decide we couldn't understand each other well enough. Anyway, so I like the idea. We'll see about doing it with other authors. Anyway, so yeah, the envelope builder I think is an incredible tool, and beyond just humanoids, like we can do our own from scratch, and that was how I was anticipating. Like if the demo didn't go very long, but we've actually been an hour. I'll ask if you I have an idea for like creating a little dinosaur, you know, base mesh out of these envelope this envelope builder thing if you want to watch it, but the fact that we can create custom things here, and it is just I think a little. It looks a lot like the skin modifier initially, but it's actually, in my opinion, more powerful in that. Let's see, Alt S. Yeah, so Alt S is how you increase the size. But like I can duplicate this bone and just offset it slightly. You can't do this with the skin modifier. And then if you convert to a mesh, like it maintains that thickness. So like that is not something that I think you can do with the skin modifier. So it's just a little bit more robust here. And yeah, so convert to the mesh. Those are the tools. I've gone over them all now. I was thinking of the demo that I would do is on our site. Okay, yeah, I found this in our gallery submissions, and I love this little character, the Vipitor. I was gonna block this guy out using the envelope builder just for fun. And if you want to watch that, maybe I'll do it. So yeah, let's say if you want to see it, give me a 1. If you're good, if you've seen the add-on, and we can call it a day, give me a 2. But I'd be happy to do that for you if you want. See if I have any other questions. This is what Speed Sculpt has, and I was really confused by it. Speed Sculpt has? I watched the video. I didn't see this directly in Speed Sculpt. Looks like a chromosome. I looked through Speed Sculpt, and as far as I could tell, this is something that Sculpt Toolkit had over Speed Sculpt. But all right, so if we want to see that, sure, I'll be happy to do that. I believe I took a screenshot, so I can load the image up in here. Desktop. Let's see. Yeah. All right, so this Vipitor. By the way, the artist, give him a shout out. Alyssa Vasey. I love these characters. Really good job. I really wanted to, as soon as I saw this, I was like, man, I got to sculpt that thing. That thing's great. So thank you for submitting. Hope that's all right that I use this. Let's see. I'm not sure if it's mentioned, but it's definitely in the add-on itself. Okay. Well, okay, that's good to know. I guess Speed Sculpt also has this functionality. I remember at CG Cookie, we were all really excited when he submitted this add-on because of this functionality, and asking like, how in the world did he do this? But apparently, it's done elsewhere too. Anyway, that's okay. Great. Awesome. All right, so I'm just gonna take some time to casually block this guy out using a. Let's see. I think I'm gonna start with the neutral character. By the way, there are several options here. You got female. You've got hero, which I love. Look at this. Look how extensive you can be with this character, with this tool, and convert it to a mesh. But very much like Z-spheres, like you get this definition. So if you want to take the time to really build the shape out using envelopes, you get a great result. Like it's very accurate to it. So anyway, I think that is awesome. The hero option. We'll just go neutral, and I really just want to start with the legs. Start with the legs, and we will, create this little guy. I think I'm going to delete everything above. I also want to enable axis mirror for the armature, so everything that's done is done on both sides. All right, so just going to eyeball kind of the style of this block out. Alt S to increase the size, just trying to create the knee shape. Alt S. Just eyeballing. Here we can subdivide. Ooh. It's a little bit weird how envelopes are selected, though. I can find that to be a little funky. Like, why is it not selecting that one? Where even is that? I literally can't find that bone. Strange. All right. It is a little bit of a different approach where, you know, as I pull this bone out, lengthen it, the knee also grows in size. So that is different than like the skin modifier, for example. The skin modifier does not work that way. So that could be take a little bit of getting used to. All right, let's pull this out, give him a wider girth. And then here, not quite used to the Alt-S hotkey yet. Give him some toes. And then I'll just duplicate it. Just as long as these bones are intersecting, it should convert to a mesh fine. Yeah, but the only caveat is that if I wanted to pose it, like in pose mode, these would not be connected. But, I mean, I'm not too worried about that. Right now we're just building. I don't know why I can't. There we go. Very strange. Why in the world? The selecting is a little bit wonky. Okay, what if I switch? I gotta figure out how to fix this. So envelope, what about octahedral? Weird, so how do we go from this to this? I mean, where in the world is this bone at? I don't know. That's strange. To me, it doesn't make sense. It looks perfectly symmetrical, but in the middle, we get this wonkiness. All right, whatever. We will, just going to duplicate this. Won't let me. All right. I just want to get another piece started for the body. We do have two like bones directly on top of each other. Let's see what I can do. Let me just delete these. Turn off. There we go. All right. So now we've got one set of bones right up in here. Sorry guys, that was, since I don't use envelopes, I got to get used to how they work. It's a little different. Alt-S. One thing that I do miss about the skin modifier is that you can actually, you know, if I want to enlarge this, I can just do it in a certain direction. I can do it up and down or width, you know, kind of skew it, but in here it's all just spheres, so we can't do that. So I'm going to have to basically create another mass going up the top sort of thing. Maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. That seems to work fine. And then we'll start to create the neck. I'm losing my symmetry. It's all right. Cool. All right, so we're just gradually blocking this thing out. Sort of looks like a chicken more than a dinosaur. I'm trying to determine, if I should like, how do I say it? How detailed should we go with this? If I Shift D duplicate, well, let's create another bone this way. But it's not symmetrical. This is okay, so you have to duplicate them together. That's what it is. Guys, what is happening? What? Pick your battle. Scaling issues with envelopes or crazy geometry. Yeah, I mean, I have to admit that I think since I don't use envelopes as much as if I was using this tool a lot, I'd be using a ton of envelopes. And in that way, it wouldn't be this weird looking. But I should say that, like, envelopes are behaving strange right now. What is that? Maybe it's just easier to, like, hop into octahedral mode. Yeah, and fix it up a bit. Definitely different. I did this yesterday and didn't have anywhere near this kind of trouble. I guess that's just the way streams go. Maybe a little bit too long. Yeah, we're getting pretty close, but what I would want to do is, like, why won't the duplicate work? I don't understand some of this stuff. Like, I can duplicate bones sometimes, other times I can't. Why? Why? But, like, we can go down the side and just, I mean, I guess you could sort of do this with a skin modifier. No, I think that what I keep thinking about with the skin modifier is that you need a conversion to, like, Boolean together your skin modifier options, your skin modifier pieces, whereas this just has the one, like, I can take these duplicate pieces and convert it all into one mesh. But yeah, if I was taking more time, I think it would be worth it to block out the shape once I get faster, you know, working with the tool, to be able to block out the shape. Even like, I want to create some of like the brow shape, you know, like really get into sort of like the hero demonstrated, like you can really be detailed with your shapes. And like this is representative of the mouth. The selection is funky. This is very much me playing with it, if you can't tell. I hope the developer doesn't watch this and just shakes his head like this is not the best way to use it. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. But since I don't have the other side symmetrical, I'm going to duplicate these, scale them -1. I really like the brow shape. It's got a lot of character. Yeah, and just the brow alone, in my opinion. But I can only imagine that for some people, this is a much more intuitive, you know, once they get used to it, and like once I get used to not bumbling around so much, like this could be a much more intuitive way to block out some shapes before actually diving into Sculpt with brushes. It drives me nuts that I can't. Maybe that's the issue. I have to duplicate a whole bone, not just the end joint. That's got to be what it is. Yeah. So what I'll do instead, it's getting somewhere. Let's try converting it. Let's see what that looks like so far. Start low. I mean, that's, if you take your time, that could be really nice. I don't like what happened here. Well, anyway, if you take your time with it, I think this is just a very powerful tool. So I might call that a day just to show you a little bit of playing around with it. But cool. If you have any last questions about this, I think I saw one. Nope, maybe I didn't. I saw just an all caps word. Oh, Char, good to, whoops. Char, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one. But try L for selecting all of the bone. That's a good idea. Good call. Oh. Yeah. That is a good idea. For some reason, it seems to default to picking the bone that's behind the one that's on the backside. That's kind of weird. I can definitely hit Control plus to go up to the full bone. Maybe that's a better way to do it than L. So anyway, definitely have to get used to working with envelopes. But looks like we're talking about dog descendants or something interesting. But yeah, I mean, imagining like developing this character's shape using this method seems very fun to me. And yeah, so I recommend, giving it a try. Consider the add-on especially if you sculpt a lot. Oh, I wanted to ask, so I don't have a stream scheduled or decided officially for next week. So if you would like to see me go over Speed Sculpt, basically kind of doing a comparison to this one, I'm willing to do that. It would also be sort of the same stream twice, just with a different tool. But if you want something unique, someone else mentioned the lighting add-on from studio lighting add-on from Andrew Price. So that's got a vote. But if anyone has any other suggestions, here's the time to toss them out. Or any other last questions. But other than that, I'm going to call it a day on this one. Just checking through the chat, see if I missed anything. Okay, so a lighting add-on. Very nice. I might check with Andrew just to, I assume he'd be cool with that, but yeah, as long as I buy it, yeah, it's fine. Have you heard of Wrap 3? No, I have not. Wrap 3 can automatically fit a base mesh to a 3D scan. What? That's awesome. Beyond just like a scan, it'd be nice to like make one almighty facial topology and then wrap it to any sculpture. Like a sculpture of an ogre or a sculpture of a woman, sculpture of a man. That seems pretty cool. Wrap X. So this isn't a Blender add-on. It doesn't look like. Just a application in general. Okay, Pro Lighting Studio. I've seen Omar. I've seen at least 2 for that. But thank you for the suggestion. Wrap 3 looks really interesting. I'm gonna check it out. Very cool. All right, so we got a couple votes for Pro Lighting Studio. Looks like that one, no one else is throwing any other ones out, but I think some of his lighting scenes were also converted to HDRIs, but I could be wrong. Oh, okay. I'd like to see an add-on that resets the origin point without having to jump from edit mode to object mode. I might have written that tool myself. I'm trying to remember. I don't know how to get to it really quickly, but I might have. I remember wanting that, and I think I might have put that as part of my tool set. I seem to recall doing that, but yeah, I mean that's just a simple macro. You can tell Python to, for your selected object, go to object mode, apply that location, and then jump back to edit mode. But just to your perception, it's a click of a button. You're not jumping in and out yourself. So that would be a pretty simple tool to do. Oh, I mean the HDRI is on Polygon. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I think I'll let you go. It's about an hour and a half. Yeah, I hope you found this insightful. If you do a lot of sculpting, maybe consider grabbing this add-on or at least trying it with the Flow Tools 2. beta. So yeah, with that said, I will see you next week for some sort of add-on exploration. But Cloth Weaver, mainly to know if it's worth the money. Cloth Weaver. I've heard of that one. Cloth Weaver Blender. Oh yeah, I did look at this one. Wow, so it's only, is that just me or is that 51 cents? No longer available on the Blender market. Okay. Interesting. I don't know what happened here. A new system for updating to my current users. Huh, okay. I'm not sure what it costs now, but. Question, I can't find Wrap 3 on Lester Banks. Yeah, I kind of thought it was an asset pack too. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Cloth Weaver, but something has happened. There's a YouTube video about it, probably. Anyway. All right, so I'm gonna let you guys go. Around 50 bucks. Yeah, I'd have to be pretty impressive for 50 bucks. I mean, I basically expect like a simplified version of Marvelous Designer for 50 bucks. Awesome. I'll let you guys go. Thanks for watching, and happy blending. I will see you in a week. Goodbye.